All right, welcome, everybody. uh, all right, folks. Welcome to your favorite Sunday afternoon program. That, of course, being Hot Program. It is I, your host with the most from the East Coast, and I am joined by the man who puts the in evangelical. A man who needs absolutely no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I'm well, thank you, Pocket Locker. How about you?
I'm doing fine as well.
Good. I'm about to share on Twitter.
Oh, people like that social media stuff, man.
They do. It might as well be social media for me because I don't really get that involved in it. There is a bully on Facebook that I pretty much respond to probably a third of what he writes because some of his readers, and there are fewer and fewer of them, or responders, take him as two things, seriously and correct. And I try to disprove both of those by offering a counterpoint. And he's a big Trump fan. There's nothing wrong with liking Donald Trump, but when you throw away objectivity, there your problems begin, you know. So, but yeah, I try to be the anti-troll for that stuff.
I think there's a lot wrong with liking Donald Trump. I think liking Donald Trump is indicative of problematic thinking, but it's a warning sign.
Well, I can explain. I'll explain it to you like I did to a
Appreciate you, YouTube Prunk.
One of the reasons that Donald Trump is so popular and people are so dedicated to him is the same reason that people enjoy religion so much.
There it is. That's the problem I have with it.
well, let me just tell you. So, like the God of the Bible, Donald Trump makes many promises, rarely delivers on any of them, takes credit for things that he didn't do, and is an utter failure again and again and again.
Yes.
However, sometimes he does come through, just on the odds, if you will. Sometimes the God of the Bible, if you make a prayer, you actually get what you want. That feels so good, coupled with the fact that in human psychology, the moment you receive what you anticipated is less exciting than the moment that came before it in the human experience, again and again. Donald Trump is always keeping them there at that spot just before they get it. God of the Bible is doing the same thing. And think about this. Jesus is supposed to return, right? We're always hearing this. The rapture's coming. Jesus is coming back. He's going to rapture us up and we're going to go off to heaven. Sure. Any day now for 2,000 years. As I've said, Gospel of John says, Jesus says to the teachers of the law, you have a saying, there's 4 months until harvest. Well, all those people are dead now. Jesus was saying the harvest in John is upon us. You know, Satan has been defeated. Not in Revelation where it says that's going to happen. He says it did.
Right.
The prince of this world.
But he always gets it wrong. I'm going to share something with you. I got to actually PP real quick, but I'll be BRB. In the meantime, we're going to listen to one of my favorite young black comedians. I think this brother really has a future in stand-up. Now, I don't know if he's going to stick with it. But but I like him more as a comedian than in his former career. And you know,
what was his former career? Oh,
you know, I think his jokes have some potential. All right, y'all, I'll be right back.
Michelle, you know, she's got a dazzling smile. Yeah. I mean, listen, I understand there's, in terms of popularity, there's basically Michelle, Malia, Sasha, Sonny, our dog, then me. I understand. She's hot. She's smart. She is. She's charming. She's intelligent. I get it. But here's a little secret about Michelle. You know, in our household, she can be a little bit of the glass half empty person sometimes. You know, she can get a little discouraged about what she sees happening. And you know, I'm the hope and change guy. So I'm usually a little more optimistic. And so if she's been watching the news or reading the papers and some crazy stuff is taking place, which is basically every 10 minutes, you know, she can get a little down, and I'll say, hey, honey, everything's going to be okay. And I believe that. I believe things will be okay. But I also know that things won't be okay on their own. They'll be okay if we make the effort. It'll be okay if we work for it, not just on election day, but every day in between. And I know, look, I know some of you probably feel like Michelle does sometimes, because I feel, even me, the hope and change guy, I can get discouraged. Politics is so nasty and mean, and it just seems like people will say anything and do anything. And it can be depressing sometimes. And a lot of what we used to take for granted. Things like respect and common decency and telling the truth and believing in science and the idea that every vote should count and that the person with the most votes win. All that somehow has become controversial. But I was listening backstage to what Josh talked about, the experience of him running for governor and traveling around the state. And it reminded me of the experience that I had first as a state senator traveling around my district, and then as a U.S. Senate candidate in Illinois, and then as a presidential candidate. It's such a privilege to be able to meet people from every walk of life, folks who look different and live in different places. And it would always remind me, and what we have to remind ourselves, is that there's this common thread. There's this thing that binds us together as Americans. A belief that no matter who we are, or where we come from, what we look like, who we love, what our last name is, how we worship, a belief that all of us matter. The kind of slash and burn politics that we're seeing right now, that doesn't have to be who we are. We can be better. And it has nothing to do, by the way, with political correctness or being too woke. It's about fundamental values that my grandparents from Kansas taught me. Values I grew up with, values you grew up with, values we try to teach our kids, values we learn in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples, honesty, fairness, opportunity, hard work, values that Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman stand for, values that Joe Biden stands for, values that were enshrined in our founding documents a few miles from here, a clarion call for freedom and equality that Philly's own Liberty Bell represents. That's what America stands for. That's who we are. So if you're anxious and frustrated right now, don't complain, don't mope, don't tune out. Get off your couch and do what? Put down your phones and do what? Vote for Josh Shapiro. Vote for John Fetterman. Vote for leaders who will fight for you and your families. Vote for folks who will fight for that big, inclusive, hopeful, forward-looking America that we believe in. Who will work with Joe Biden to build a country that is more fair and more just and more equal and more free.
All right, Obama. I don't even know where the Obama. There we go. Oh man.
All right, so
Go ahead.
I'm happy to see this video. There's something I need to talk about here. So can you go all the way back to the beginning?
Which part?
Okay, a little more. Stop. Okay. So when you look at where Obama's hands are, there's a small, well, I don't know how small this person is. There's a child behind him. And that child is distracting because that child, I think, is America. That kid's a metaphor.
Which child?
He sits there.
The apathetic one with the flag in his hand?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep,
Brown
exactly.
shirt. Thank you, GT Punk.
In the brown shirt. In the brown shirt.
Yeah. as the young one sits there twirling the flag, occasionally resting his or her head on the shoulder of the person next to him, looking down at the flag. In this particular moment where you paused it, there's no flag waving. There's no understanding of the sacrifices and all that, or there may be little, but I'd say the average American doesn't have a great understanding of these things. The average American wants fairness for them and fairness for past their bedtime, maybe. But I think what we're seeing I think there's a lot of lopsidedness in my YouTube feed where I get people criticizing Trump supporters, but I don't get people criticizing Biden supporters. So maybe it's the same. I kind of think it is. Sadly, what I do see with the Trump supporters is the blind allegiance.
Sure.
And watching them, and I'm quoting Dusty Smith, voting against their own best interests.
Absolutely.
That's true. That's very true. And they're not all rich. But again, like I alluded to a moment ago, the power that Trump has is understanding the psychology. He's always apologizing for a loss or victory that hasn't occurred yet. And imagine you have business partners, and that's the way you proceed in business, right? Because he would get these investors, and then he would pay himself and his family, and then the project would fail. I don't know why it failed. I did tell you it was a possibility, right? So he can hold himself harmless.
Right.
He said early on, if we lose, the election is stolen.
There it is right there. If we lose, the election was stolen. I mean,
right. If it doesn't go the way I'm telling you, it's not our fault. And think of this. We hear the lame excuse from Trump supporters. How could he lose? He had more votes than any other sitting American president ever. And because I've had people say that to my face, I said, you only need one more than that to beat him.
Mm-hmm.
Biden had a lot more than that.
Absolutely. He beat him.
And then I hear, nuh-uh, and I say, Google it, and they won't.
Absolutely.
The idea, when this person goes home, when the kid goes home, the idea of what America is may be changed just a little bit. But as we see this person sitting there, I don't see patriotism. There's people behind him that don't want to sit down, want to stand up, or focused and attentive and understand the political process pretty well. That's not most people.
Right.
It's not most people. Now, the fact that people are excited that they have a vote and they're going to exercise their vote, that's freaking awesome. That's great. And I kind of wish we could make people vote. I kind of wish.
Would you, though? Would you make everybody vote, though? You think that'd be good?
I don't know that it would be good. Making everybody do something bothers me. I guess I should say I wish it was more promoted. When I was a kid, 1,000 years ago, on election days, just prior election days, we couldn't have gym class. They would roll in these big machines that looked like giant filing cabinets. And these were the voting machines. You probably couldn't steal one if you wanted to. You couldn't plug a USB drive into it.
Yeah.
It didn't have any holes for, for like a Cat 5 cable, anything like that. They were massive. And it was a bit of a solemn undertaking to watch those things being wheeled into the gym. And all day long, I would see adults in line. When we would have a break, like we'd go to recess or to music class or something like that. I would see those lines of adults extending out of the building to go use those big machines. And the teachers knew I was curious about it. They poked my head in there a few times over the years. Excuse me. There people were taking moments out of their day. I tell my staff, if you need to go vote, you absolutely just need to tell me approximately when you'll be back. And I said, go in the morning. So I don't have to pay you for a day that you don't show up for, but go in the morning and definitely get your vote in for sure. Because again, here's one of the instances in American culture where on a large scale, we can see the results of what we do, right? If it's not magnified by the political process, it's the political process that you get to vote. The people we elect, they have to vote on things. So we hope we elect the right people with the right ideals. I think a lot of times
I think it should be a holiday.
You think it should be a holiday? I think you'd get even less people voting then. Unless you made it Wednesday, smack dab in the middle of the week.
Because they just want
3 day
day
weekends.
Off.
3 day weekends. Or people trying to make a 4 day weekend.
And I guess it's Tuesday or something. I don't know, but yeah,
Tuesday. Yeah.
I mean, if they do that, I guess that's on them. But I just think there's too many people who use work as a reason not to vote.
Well, legally, I say it every year. Legally, I'm required to let my employees go vote. Legally, I'm required to. And if it's during their shift, I have to pay them for it. I have to pay them.
I am not supposed to let my students out of things to vote.
That's probably not true.
Yeah. I mean, that's the universities. That's how the unit. Like it's like we can encourage them to vote, but like let's say I have a quiz or an exam, they can't be like, oh, I missed it because I had to go vote. It'd be like. Now, I don't know who would schedule something like that on election day. That would be kind of a jerk.
Well, somebody would. Somebody who wants to hold those votes away.
But yeah, you can't miss class. You can't miss class and get out of an absence and say, "Oh, I was voting." They're just going to say, "You're supposed to vote on your own time," basically. Yeah.
Well, not a bad idea to put some ballot boxes on campus to make it convenient for those students.
Yeah. I mean, I think
and other people.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we should do everything we can to encourage people to vote.
Yeah, and for many years, I didn't vote. Then I started to get the absentee ballot, and then I actually was in LA on a few election days. It's pretty impressive. I won't be there this time, but typically I'm used to going over to my polling place and saying hello to those people, except for one neighbor who works the polls, but the other ones I only see on election day. I don't see them the rest of the year. I have a friend who works on election committees not election committees, I'm saying the wrong thing. She works for the county doing election work. And it's a big involved process. There's all these rules they need to know, and it's all designed around being fair. And I think that's something that's forgotten. I think a lot of us, going back to the brown shirted one, a lot of us feel like the brown shirted one here. Because maybe as that person sits there, they don't see where they fit in. They don't see that they can make a difference. And so they quietly just wait for it all to be over so they can go do something else or talk about something else.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. And it feels like I'm out here stumping, trying to get people to vote, which is in a sense just what people like me do this time of year. Although we're serious this time, we mean it. This election's really important. But yeah, you're just kind of waiting for it to be over. I'm with Punk. I think not only should we all be able to vote from our phones, I think the fact that we can't vote electronically, remotely during a pandemic is criminal. Absolutely criminal. Matter of fact, I think our overall denial of the pandemic is criminal. I guess that's a topic for another day, but it's very frustrating.
How do you keep the voting on the phones honest?
Because you already have to be registered. Mm-hmm. So you probably go through some one-time registration thing, and there's probably a confirmation email sent to you or some other thing, and you can challenge it. As you just have to make it easy to challenge the vote if somebody thinks their vote wasn't processed properly. But I think it's easy enough for them to figure it out.
Okay.
Aaron said I can look up my registration on my phone.
And I appreciate the link, YouTube Punk. I don't know at all. I was asked by a guy I went to high school with on Facebook. He goes, "You're always critical of what people put, like their political things on here. What ideas do you have?" And I was like, "Allow me to elucidate." And I just went on and paragraph after paragraph. One of the things was that our politicians would be paid a minimum salary. And voters could have a minimum salary. So let's say the position currently pays $175,000 a year. On the MyOneBlack Friend plan, that drops down to $75,000 a year. And the rest of the money wouldn't come from the state. Your constituents would have to pay. A company couldn't pay you anything, and the maximum donation would be $10.
And what's this going to do?
If you're doing a great job, more people will pay the $10 to get you up to what was the old ceiling. If it was 175, that's it. And when you hit 175, people can't donate anymore. The salary cap has been reached. We are not accepting any more donations. That way you can't buy that politician, right? It's anonymous who voted, who donated on their side. They just know they get the money. It goes into an escrow account held by the state, and then they get disbursements throughout the year to cover their salary. Now, running their office is a different matter, but the money that goes in their pocket that they get to keep is altogether different.
Okay.
So if you do a good job, like I'm here on a Sunday at my office. I have an employee that came in today because she is not happy with how much work she got done during the week. I told her, "Don't come in. I can't pay you. Don't come in. I can't pay you." I got another, and he wanted to do the same. "Don't come in. I can't pay you. Don't come in. I can't pay you." One of them is still here. I'm here on my day off because, like my other employee, I'm not satisfied with the amount of work I got done. I'm not going to ask them to pay me for today. I just want to get certain things finished.
That's how I am today.
Like I've got 7 reports I did.
I've got certain things I'm just trying to get done today. Yeah, exactly.
have my standards, and I try to hold myself to that standard, except for dieting. I'm no good at that. But maybe I will be one day. So I think the American political process can be revamped. There's a lot of creative ideas out there. My idea, I would scale that all the way up to the president. Sorry, dude. With a position like that, it's 50,000 a year base pay.
50,000 a year.
Buy your meal. Yeah, we buy your meals. Think of how many
that's
more
what I mean.
millions.
No, it's not enough. Let me tell you.
No. That's base pay. You use the same process of donations. If people like what the president is doing, they'll pay more.
All right, chat. What do y'all think about this?
It caps out. It caps out at the old number.
I say we just pay them because they're all gonna just find a way to get it anyway and waste. But approval, it's almost like paying them based on their approval.
That's exactly what you're doing.
But aren't they just going to keep lying like they are now? Because like the problem with Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't her lack of approval.
You know what the difference is? The difference is you can see how fast someone got their money. And if someone is slow to get their money, that means either the people in that community are very impoverished or they're very unsatisfied. And if they're very unsatisfied, stop playing golf and get your ass to work. It's real simple.
But what do you do about the Marjorie Taylor Greenes where she doesn't want her committee assignments? Now she can just social media post her way to getting her money quicker. Her
coworkers in office need to call her on that stuff. And I think they should have a right to, I guess it's censure her for things like that and even get her fired for not doing her job.
Just
Ms. Green, we're giving you these things. You're not doing your job. You're not serving your constituents.
Right.
You need to serve the people.
That's why I thought it was odd that, well, I got why they pulled her committee assignment. She doesn't belong on any committees, but it wasn't really a punishment in the sense that she didn't want to. She's not there to do work anyway. So when they pull her committee assignment, she just has more time for social media posting.
Just more time. As I say, just prepare to watch on Fox News, Boebert and Green, which sounds better than Green and Boebert.
Oh, so where are you at with what do you think is going to happen in these midterms?
I'm not super savvy politically. I do think the Democrats will keep control. I do think that. We'll see.
It's optimistic.
I know if Mitch McConnell, I don't think his seat's up. I don't think his seat's up because I do a really great Mitch McConnell impression, and it would be sad if that became useless. But good for the country.
Yes.
If I can do my Mitch McConnell impression anymore, I mean, it'd be a sad day for America.
Absolutely.
But it'd be good for the country. It's a sad day for Mitch and me.
Yes, but good for America. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I just think you should be able to.
How about you?
What scares me is I don't know. I think this one really hangs in the balance. And to be honest, I think that there's a chance that the voter discouragement does what it's intended to do, which is keep the turnout low. Okay, so let's just a couple of factors. Turnout is typically.
I'm going to have to excuse myself, but I'm going to listen on my phone.
All right, go ahead.
But keep going. All
right, so voter turnout is typically lower, much lower / low in midterms as it is. Usually only the most politically motivated people pay attention to midterm elections. That quote-unquote midterm effect is going to be the most dramatic in those communities that we're concerned about. Black people, people of color, lower income, the left, liberal, educated people, all the people that are, on our side, but also don't turn out as consistently. The right wing turns out. Like, that's the one thing they do. They vote. It's in their indoctrination. So they always turn out. And they're ramping up their motivation. I don't know that we've sufficiently ramped up our motivation. I do think the numbers are on our side overall, but again, they don't need to discourage everyone from voting. They just need to discourage enough people from voting. So that's got me really alarmed. Got me genuinely concerned. The other thing is, I don't know what we win. You know, we really need to get to that 60 in the Senate, and we need control over the House and stuff like that. So it's going to be a tough one, y'all. People need to vote. That's why we're doing all these damn episodes. UC Love said Boebert might get the axe, Green won't. Why Boebert but not Green? I mean, to me, they're almost in the same category. I think Green's a little bit stronger, a little bit bigger of a name. Maybe, but I don't know. They're both kind of the same. AR said, out of the 17 places I can vote at, 10 are churches. God damn. That's the other thing, man. It's just so ridiculous how much our fucking democracy is tied up into this religion shit. Separation of church and state. You can't have voting at the church.
Religion is useful.
Yeah, but that's supposed to be a hard line right there.
You still have separation of church and state. A church is merely acting as a building. I could walk in there and you can walk in there. I don't think it serves a religious function if there are voting machines in there. As far as the voting machine.
I mean, it's not the hill I'm going to die on, but it's not, I don't think it's appropriate. I think in a more sophisticated democracy, we just don't do it. First off, in a more sophisticated democracy, we stop trusting churches. We just got to stop. We have to stop. We have to stop esteeming institutions that are based in deceit. We've got to say it doesn't matter. You can't 5% donation your way out of taxes. You don't pay taxes, you're bad. You don't
10% donation.
No, I'm saying for the church. I don't know what the church does, but I'm just saying churches want to say, oh, look, we give to the soup kitchen, we do this, we do that. I'm just saying they can't good deed their way out of what they do. That's how mobs work. That's how the mob works, right? The mob gives away turkeys on Thanksgiving. The mob supports the YMCA. The mob supports the police athletic association, right? It's not. We don't say it's therefore okay to do racketeering because you give away turkeys on Thanksgiving. I think we've got to treat churches the same way. Because if not, we're not advocating for their victims, right? In every other walk of life, we advocate for the victims. And then when it comes to churches, we just switch up. We start advocating for the oppressors because we forget that the people that are, quote unquote, going along with it of their own volition, they're victims. They're victims. They would not be going along with this if they knew the truth. If you sat down a Christian and you genuinely said to them, if you knew there was no God, don't tell me what you believe. If you knew there was no God, if you gave them the list of what we know to be the actual factuals, they wouldn't be there. So I think at some point you got to stop and make excuses. We've got to, I don't think America especially, so why I'm trying to leave this country. I don't think America will genuinely be free of religion until it has a genuine atheistic revolution, the Great Awakening that James Apperson is talking about. Otherwise, I think it's happening, but I think it will be such a slow, inevitable crawl. It's like evolution. You won't be able to see it in your lifetime. I mean, you won't see meaningful change in your lifetime.
I often tell people, the Christians and stuff like that, I'll tell them, you should definitely read the Bible. And I mentioned this before on Hot Program. I've told people I will purchase a Bible for you and have it sent to your house. You can choose. And which one you want. No takers. I've done this for 3 months now. Not a single taker. Not even that person who wants to do it just so I'm out the $30 for a Bible. You know, I've earmarked a few $100 for this. Haven't spent a dime. I'll give them a Throckmorton's for free with the New Testament in it, with all the Gospels side by side by side by side. No takers. Again, Pocket Locker audience, it does not matter to them, to most of them, that it isn't true. It doesn't matter. A lot of them don't participate in it anyway, right? It's just the jersey. They got the jersey. They don't play the game. They just want people to think they do. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so to me, they only want that. This is a good conversation to have. They only want that because we keep esteeming them. We keep, as a society, keep saying this is a jersey. If you treated, imagine you come into the office one day in a really nice suit, $3,000 suit, really nice, chocolate brown with the nice light blue underneath. Just everything is swanky, right? What are your people gonna say? You look great today, man. You looking really sharp. Man, what happened? You got something going on today? Is your fiance here? What's going on? Right? They're going to wonder, man, because you're going to be looking so fresh, so clean. People are going to literally wonder, is something going on today? Because this looks like it must be a special day in your life because you look so special. Now imagine coming in with some holy sweatpants that I got, you know, they 20, 30 years old and some falling apart raggy t-shirts and ketchup stains all over you to the office. Now, they might not kick you out the office, but people are not going to sit there and grope over your clothes and tell you how amazing you look. Matter of fact, somebody might pull you aside and be like, is everything okay? Are you all right? Is there something going on? Do you need to talk? Do you need some help? This isn't like you. Now, here's the thing. We're doing the opposite with Christianity. No, I don't mean Christians. I mean not Christians. We're treating the people coming in rags like they came in a $5,000 suit. Oh, that Jesus stuff. Oh yeah, we know it's not true, but you're such an honest person. You're so wonderful. You're one of my closest friends. We have to stop that. And it kills me because it's like you got to help people. I hate to say this, but these people need your help. And the number one thing they need you to do to help them is stop treating them so wonderfully about this. Because that's not what they need. That's never going to help them. You're never going to like this is a situation where, again, if you keep treating them that way, right, that's why they wear the jersey. They wear the jersey because everybody else treats them so wonderfully every time they put it on. If they started wearing that jersey and people started saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe, no, you can't show up in my house with that jersey on. No, you're cool, but you got to take that jersey off first. No. Literally, nobody's allowed to wear that jersey in my house. That jersey's disgusting to me, right? Christianity would be over before you knew it. Because that's what they really demand. Y'all, look, I'm going to tell you something. They know, at least they know, that no one's ever given them confirmation of heaven. They know that they don't know if they'll really get the rewards after they're gone. What they do know is you will give them the reward right now. We are the people who give them heaven right here, right now. Every time we tell them they're a soldier for truth and the most wonderful, beautiful, most honest, greatest neighbor we could ever have. And we know that some people misrepresent Jesus, but not them. They're one of the honest, true, good believers. Just give them a trophy. Just give them a trophy. Tell them they've won at life, and but don't expect that treatment is going to somehow get them to change their mind, because all we've done is tell them you're amazing. Why would they think they need to change?
I want to read to you. I have the quote, the tweet reply from Sean McDowell. From when I asked him if we had all the science we have today and technology. And
he answered that question?
He didn't, and he did.
Okay, let's hear it.
We didn't have, for people who haven't heard it, if we had all the modern technology that we have today, and science knowledge that we have today, but we didn't have religion, how could we go about proving there was a God?
Right. I can't believe he actually responded even.
He said, I'm honestly not sure if I fully understand the question. I think there's historical, philosophical, and experiential and scientific evidence for God. So that's his reply. Oh, the most wounding thing I can say when someone starts preaching to me is, prove it. Right now, prove it. Christians are supposed to have the Holy Spirit poured out on them. Show me one that does. They're supposed to be able to lay hands on people and heal them. Show me one that can, that isn't a doctor.
Right.
Right? There may be some therapist out there who knows exactly what to say to help someone heal. That's fantastic. I wish there were more people that had that skill.
Right.
But they don't have that because the Bible says they do. They have that because of their training.
Exactly.
They know what wounds the human spirit.
Yeah, I don't understand. I just don't. What's that feeling called? The heebie-jeebies? Because it's so deep. It's like thick to me. It's like, so wait, you believe all these things that just there's no way they're true. And then I am supposed to, it's like Uncle Bobby says, like we're supposed to feel like the stupid ones or the rude ones for, just saying things don't work that way. That is scary to me, because I always think that the educated have a certain humility about us. The reason you get educated is because when somebody tells you you're wrong about something, you go, oh, really? Am I? And then you go learn so that you're not wrong again. It's amazing when people can be clearly wrong, demonstrably wrong, but then demand that others concede to their narrative. That to me is, and it becomes the slippery slope to anything. I guess fascism, because at some point, what else do you have? I guess I'm like this truth obsessed type of person where I think if you lose the truth, if you don't have a firm grip, you're not talking about the same facts, that's when things get real dangerous.
Well, most people have their own interpretation of reality. If you're not in a coma, you likely have your own interpretation of reality. And as a result of that, you might be right, you might be wrong, but there you are with your opinion.
Right.
Some opinions get shared, and some of those shared opinions get adopted. Some of those adopted opinions can become laws. They can become religions. They can become ways of life. They can be healing. They can be hurtful. So think about it. The Ku Klux Klan has all these people that sympathize with them that aren't Klan members simply because they don't know what to do to become one. Right? And some of those Klan members were swept up in it because their buddies were doing it, and they don't know how to get out. They might love their friends. Like, how do I keep my friends but walk away from all this hate?
Right.
They don't want to be a part of it. How do they do it?
Yeah.
Escape route.
That's what Lupin sounded like. He sounded like a guy who like would be in the Proud Boys officially if only he knew how.
Plenty of them out there. Just we see it in the church, right? There's plenty of people who want to leave. They just don't know how, or they feel they have too much to lose. So they stay. They sit there. People are free to walk in every time they meet, and the crowds can get larger and larger and larger. But people don't want to lose that community, so they don't leave. They sit there. They stay.
Absolutely.
I think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna tell Six Spider, make sure you're optimized for video under your screen share. It's a little choppy, but ooh, that car went right by. Went right by. All right, yeah, that's cool. We're just watching Six Spider. He's streaming. I don't know if that's a Setta Corsa or what. Well, it's a driving sim.
It's funny. I love racing, and I want to. When I'm building up my Firebird, I want to be able to race it, and yet I don't own a console or a racing game. I guess I have a PSP.
Oh yeah, you gotta get a wheel. Yeah. So
it's a PlayStation Personal. It's not big.
Are you gonna race your Firebird for race? Where are you gonna race it?
Races in autocross, which are usually held in large parking lots. So I'm going to try to do that about 5 times a year.
Large parking lots?
Well, they set up cones, which is your road course that you need to drive around on. And it's a time attack. So whoever gets the fastest time in whatever class is the winner.
Oh, so it's a time. Yeah. Okay, so everybody's hanging out, and then when it's your turn, you hit the gas and you go through the course and try to beat everybody else's time. Okay,
exactly. So I'm trying to beat my time. I don't begin to fantasize that I'm as good as all those other guys. I don't typically drive aggressively at all. I have a Prius. You know, I think I've been like 92 miles an hour or something was like the fastest I've ever been. And that was in a 74 Oldsmobile 442 that I had when I was a kid. And my dad said, you need to blow this thing out, punch it. So I stepped on the gas, and me, him, and my little brother got eyes full of dirt that had probably been in the vents of that car for 20 years.
Oh, my Lord.
And awful. I'll give it credit. It was a real smooth riding car. And so you didn't feel your speed that you were doing. And I think a well-made car sort of hides that from you,
right,
to some degree. But, you know, I could modify my engine for more power, but I'm reluctant to do that because I have to first be responsible with the power it has, so I don't end up wounding myself or someone else.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I spend money on brakes, man. I spend the money on brakes.
Yeah,
that's why I like to play on the computer, because there is no, you can't create any real life disaster.
Yes.
You can be, under the influence or whatever. You just drive for the fun of it. So I just drive and listen to you guys or listen to something else, usually. Just fun.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Six Spider. And I'm glad that I would imagine that if you tried to do this in a regular car, your skills here, this virtual experience probably helps you improve dramatically.
Yeah, I have a whole thing on that. Yeah, that's the
games that have really good physics engine, and if you have a really good wheelbase, it's a real. I won't say it's a real experience. Obviously, it's not, but definitely learning techniques on how to drive better or similar stuff like that. Yeah, that does work.
Yes,
absolutely.
See, maybe I need to get this from my fiance because she's She doesn't have a license, so she get her this, and then that way I can have it too.
Yes, I mean it would. It's a way to get someone a lot of hours.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Especially because dealing with traffic's no joke when you're
it's nice actually. In this case, in this instance right now, I just made it. I made the game. It's called a track day, right? And it's in the longest track in Germany, the Nordschleife. It's 20 kilometers, and basically you just drive for the fun of it. And I'm driving with my ex-girlfriend's car, so it's a car that I actually been in, so it's fun. Sorry, not my ex-girlfriend. My girlfriend, her ex-car.
Got you.
Big difference.
Because big difference. She's right here listening to me. She's not my ex-girlfriend. She's my girlfriend.
Did she gently remind you?
No, actually, I just remember. I thought I saw something in the corner of my eye, but no, it's all good. It's all
right.
Well, yes, we're still friends. We're still boyfriends and girlfriends. Yes.
Okay. Which country are you in?
I live in Canada, but originally I'm from Jerusalem. I'm from Israel.
You're from Israel. What is the political process for voting like in Israel, if you don't mind telling us?
So we just had elections. I don't know if you heard about that.
No,
that was the fifth election in 3.5 years.
Wow.
Fully democratic, just like the United States, or by the United States model. But so what is the question? Sorry. What?
Well, you're sort of filling me in because I don't have a concept of how the election processes work in Israel. I've never gone there. I've lived in quite a few places, but that's not a question I usually bring up because I'm only going to be there 5 months or less, so I don't really care. But we're talking about it now. It's a topic.
So the biggest issue in Israel is that there is no separation of church and state. So church and state are the same. So we have, it's not organization, it's actual bodies of government that are religious. So we have for example, we have a minister of religion, shit like that. And that's to me, that's the biggest problem in Israel, that there's no separation of church and state. But the country itself is democratic. But the last election that just happened last week, basically the fascists win. So they are now getting more power.
That might spell the end of religion.
Fascist win?
That might spell the end of religion being so powerful in government.
Why do you say that?
Sure, because the fascists basically tell you this is how it's going to be.
Exactly.
This is how it's going to be. So if you get a well, I think, Six Spider, you might agree, there are quite a few atheists in Israel. I will again repeat the Yaakov Malkin joke that I love so much. He gave it in a speech in the, Bethlehem Temple in Michigan. He says, I am a traditional Jew. I'm an atheist. My father was an atheist. My children are atheists. So I think, go ahead. You've been there. I've never been there.
So I'll tell you what the problem is. In Israel, most people think that atheist and secular are synonymous, like the same thing.
You're kidding.
And it's not. Having a secular life is not an atheist. It's got nothing to do with atheism, right? But because most of the country is at least deist, because there is no separation of church and states. For example, anything in education, we don't study anything about evolution or physics or anything like that, right?
Really?
It's not there. For example, in high school, when I was in biology, I didn't learn evolution. I learned genetics, Mendel's peas. That's what we learned.
You learned genetics,
but they did not bring it. They did not bring it as evolution, as mechanism of evolution. It was just, this is something that happens in nature, right? But anyway, so most of the population are secular, but they still have some sort of faith on something, right? What else? So yeah, I think a lot of the problem is and you're right, a lot of Jews would say that they're atheists, and it's true because the current, it's have to, just like I said before, the difference between atheism and secular life. But in today's Judaism, for example, if you're looking at the Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox Jews,
yes, they
don't care if you believe or not. Only they care is that you do the mitzvot, doing the actual ceremonies, making sure that you don't do rules against the Shabbat, right, against Saturday, stuff like that, like that you don't look at girls, that you don't touch women, or things like that. Like all the stuff that you need to do, it's more important the things that you do than the thing that you think. That's another thing there. So to be Jewish, sometimes they're saying, we don't care if you believe or not. It doesn't matter if it's true or not, as long as you do the rules. And the rules are many times, stuff that comes from the government, because we don't have separation of church and state. So it's kind of crazy. But
forgive me. I'm gonna turn the lights on in this conference room. So go ahead.
Oh, I can hear you much better now.
You really can?
Yeah, much better.
Can you hear yourself? Can you hear like an echo?
I actually now after you said that, then yes, just a bit.
Yeah, it sounds awful. What is he talking about? Don't listen to him.
I tried to be nice. It sounds okay.
I
see Jay could not hold it.
No. I'm a sound guy. I don't lie to people about that. Yeah, man. So the thing I was thinking of is I kind of feel like that here. Like there's a lot of people in my family who would say they're quote unquote not religious just because they lead secular lives. But to me, they still identify as Christians. I'll be right back. My food just got here. I can hear you guys though.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Spider.
Yeah, I don't know. Any other question? Any questions about the weird state of Israel?
I guess I probably have more than are coming to mind right now. The Ethiopians that are over there, the Ethiopian Jews that have come there.
Yep.
Did you grow up going to school with some, or no?
Yep.
Are they off? You did.
Yep.
You did.
And in the army service, I served with a few of them. Yeah, of course.
How?
Well, the thing is that they're part of the population, right?
Yes.
But the Orthodox Jews, for example, that are the ones who are running the country, for many years were fighting against bringing them over, because the Orthodox Jews are very cocky in their Judaism, saying, "Oh, those guys were not real Jews. They're just using it to get out of Ethiopia." So that was happening for a long time as well. That the actual Orthodoxy was fighting the state about bringing them over. And of course, it's something that is still out there today. There is a lot of racism and all that. Well, Judaism or God is very racist anyways. So, yeah. So about them, yes, they were brought over. They are considered, and now the Orthodoxy does see them as like original Jews, or however they want to call them.
Well, the thing that I find odd about it, I actually just responded to a Young Turks video with Anna Kaspari and Emma. I don't know her last name, the lady with the long hair. I guess quite a few of them have long hair, but she mentioned somebody had tweeted out a link to a racist video called Hebrews to Negroes. I've seen that video. I haven't seen it for a while, but I basically replied saying, don't make up your mind too fast what skin tone the ancient Hebrews had. Don't make up your mind too fast about that. I've researched it for years. You may have heard me say this before, Sixpack. I know Pocket Locker has. I have not made up my mind on what I believe about that. because there's so much that went on between then and now. I've used the example, if you came to the United States today, you see mostly Anglo-Saxon and Caucasian people, right?
Right.
That's what you see no matter where you go. It's mostly those, those shades of skin tone.
Right.
But if you came here 600 years ago, you'd probably never see anybody look like that.
Right.
Not one person. Well, when another group of people come into a land and they take it over, they throw some of the people that were there out, or they kill them, or they enslave them and they interbreed with them. So this goes on long enough. Who could believe that story? Like, wait, they came from where? Tacitus says in one of his books that he was told, some say, the Jews come from Ethiopia.
Right.
So I guess I can understand why a modern day person who didn't know that would have a difficult time accepting that. As I pointed out to her, the Old Testament itself says if the stranger wants to become part of Israel, they are to be grafted into the vine. If they're going to follow what the procedures are, they're welcome to be part of Israel. That's what the Bible says. The Torah says that.
Right.
So if it's true that the ancient Hebrews were black people, and then at some point, people who looked more, let's say, Anglo-Saxon or Caucasian in appearance, or actually were Anglo-Saxon or Caucasian, also converted and became Jewish hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, last week, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're not supposed to discriminate against that person because they're new.
So the state of Israel and the Orthodoxy in Israel, they did the same not only to the Ethiopians. So that's what I meant by the how cocky they are about their Judaism. For example, between 90 and 95, there was a big, I don't know if you're familiar with the word aliyah, which is basically Jewish people coming to Israel to live in. So they're basically leaving their home and coming over. But there was a huge aliyah from Russia. 1.5 million. And the Orthodoxy in Israel really did not like them. And I mean it. They really fought for not bringing them over. Wow. For example, some of them were not circumcised, right? Now, circumcision, it's the thing that makes you Jewish, right? In Israel, not many people, or that's not something that you even bring as an option not to do it. You'll get smashed over it, socially. So a lot of, for example, the Russian Jews didn't do that because it's not part of their culture in Russia to do it, regardless if you're Jewish or not. So the Orthodoxy was like, well, some of them are not Jewish, and some of them, they really fought that. So it's not something that they did specifically for Ethiopian or because of skin tone. It's literally the way they think that to become Jewish, you need to do, very specific things and to say very specific things and act in a specific way. And the Jewish Orthodoxy is very cult-like, so it's and that's what's in the government, right? It's part of the state, so it's very problematic. And and they treated it like that. So I know a girl that converted to Judaism, did it in Israel through the Jewish Orthodoxy system, and it was hell. What they're demanding and what they're asking you to become Jewish, I wouldn't ask that from anyone. It's silly, right? It's not. I don't know. To me, it's silly. All those things that you need to do. Even to become Christian, I would say it's even less silly, because all you have to do is baptize yourself, or someone's baptizing you. You say, I believe in Jesus Christ, and done. But to be Jewish, holy shit, what the things you need to do. You need to study, and you're going through tests, and oh my God, it's crazy. And they're not happy to do it to people. Not always. They're very happy to do it to people like me, that I'm considered, Jewish, Ashkenazi Jew. So if I'm going back through that system, they would love that, because in a way I'm already Jewish. But for people who are really coming from outside or from other religions, they're giving them hell, like literally giving them hell to become Jewish.
Do you think they're afraid of losing power?
Absolutely. That's why a big part of the orthodoxy, right? Not allowing smartphones to their kids and all that. Like they're really, really, they have sermons, of taking phones and breaking them, and they're still doing exercise. No, how do you call it? Like exorcism.
Exorcisms?
Wow. All sorts of shit. Like, yeah. And the thing is, the thing that bothers me the most is because there's no such separation of church and state, that means that if I studied to be a rabbi, right, and I'm a rabbi, I can literally say whatever I want to anyone on the street, because they think that rabbis are like, social workers, either social workers or like psychiatrists. Like you go to them with problems, but it's not that they really have the tools or know how to deal with your problem, but because the rabbi system is part of the state, like it's an actual job to be a rabbi. It turns into this, I can be a rabbi and just tell people what to eat, or come or give lectures, which is what most of them are doing. They're just going to synagogues across the country and give lectures of how to believe better, or how to follow God's word better. I don't need to explain you those type of sermons. You know them very well from Christianity. Basically, it's the same thing, actually. So it's very frustrating that it's part of the governing system. There are parties and groups that are trying to do the separation of church and state, but that is very difficult. It's part of our I don't know how you call it. I can say maybe Constitution of Israel. Okay, that's part of the Constitution, that it's a Jewish state. And because of that, that's a bit of a problem to separate the two now.
Well, people are still trying. I'll challenge that statement. I'd say it depends on who's in power, because
for sure,
all you have to do is get up and say the old way. We tried. The old way doesn't work. People feel oppressed. People don't feel accepted here. They don't feel a part of the community. That has not served us. We tried, and then here's the turn. We hope that as we endeavor forward in a more secular government, that God will bless it. So the rule of the rabbi is over.
Oh my God, I can only wish.
If all someone has to do is stand up and say that, and then the people holding the guns work for them in the military.
Yeah.
Sure. Because why? Those people instantly, they're not going to lose anything culturally.
Correct.
And they'll probably have a happier life because there's less hassles. They can still enjoy everything they've always enjoyed, because that's not being taken away from them.
Yeah.
You're taking the power away from the rabbis. You're not taking the power away from the people.
Exactly. And you're right. A lot of people thinking that actually, I saw a sermon by this rabbi saying before the elections, that we have to vote for the right, we have to vote for God, we have to vote for... And my reply was, what if not? Like, nothing would happen to your Judaism. Your practice of your religion will not change. It doesn't matter who's on power. That's the whole point. And you're right, like, it doesn't matter. But I always say that religion works on... guilt, shame, fear, and hate. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're posing the guilt and shame on you with fear, because it's actually trying to scare people. Guess what happened if the left will win? Oh my God. And the way they'll do things. And I'm like, what? Nothing will change. Like, absolutely nothing. And definitely nothing will change to you, the individual who's practicing the religion. Nothing would change. So shut the fuck up. But
Well, whoa. Let me correct you. What will change is people will listen to the person telling that person to shut up,
Right.
thinking they will have a point.
Yeah. The only thing that would happen, he will lose power. That's the only thing that will basically happen, quote unquote, is that him as a rabbi will lose power unless people will want to invite him to pay him for lectures. That's it.
We have that in the United States. Rabbis get paid to do lectures. Rabbis get invites from other synagogues to come there and speak.
Right. But it's
So
not like
think of it. It can become on their own terms.
right.
Right? I want to go give a speech, and I'll make $75,000 if I do it. And they might have to work their butts off right now to make that same money. But when they're begging you to come in the door, and you don't even have enough time to attend all the invites you get. Oh no, that might be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, but over there it's really annoying. Like I said, it's an actual job because you can actually go and get a job as a rabbi. Like each city has a city rabbi, each county has a county rabbi. The country has there's the Israel main rabbi. There is
like a pope.
In the army. Yeah, in the army you have like army rabbis, and it's like it's fucking crazy. It's just it's so silly.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you think we might find interesting about the political process in Israel?
About the political process itself, no. What's happening right now is basically the Israeli Trump is now back in power, and Bibi, you probably heard the name, Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, and he's back in power, and he's the one who's giving all the money to the Hasidic Jews, to the Orthodoxy, so he'll get more points in the parliament, and he's selling the country to them. But and not much I can say about that. I wanted to say one thing that you said about the skin tone, about the color. Sure. Is that coming from the Middle East, and of course I'm Ashkenazi Jew, right? My ancestors are from Europe. I do not look Middle Eastern, right? Mm-hmm. Like, forget about that. Like, blue eyes, like, I'm not anything like that. And I see, even in the United States, many people forget, for example, a lot of Christians think that Jesus, and I know you can see it in churches, that they think Jesus was white. I'm like, what is wrong with you? How did you get that? It's 100% that he looked more like Ethiopian than anything else, either, or if you ever happen to be in Egypt or something like that, the skin tone, obviously, it is not white. Like, I don't care what you think.
Well, I think there's something interesting about that. In order to, I don't know if you heard what I said about Trump at the top of the show, and how Trump is like God in that he can continue to fail, but because sometimes he succeeds, people continue to love him. He can break almost every promise, but because occasionally he keeps one, people continue to love him. Part of that is that they identify with the successes and the failures. It reflects their very own life.
Oh,
right?
I see.
His existence, in a way, works to justify their own. You will hear Christian after Christian say, if there is no God, then life is meaningless.
Right.
If that were true, I can take away everything you have and give it to someone else, and you won't complain.
Right?
If it's meaningless, look, I did you a favor. I don't want you to worry about these things anymore. I'm going to find your wife a new husband. I'll find husbands for your husbands and wives for your children. You don't have to worry about that. I'm even taking the dog. I'm taking everything away, and I'm giving it to someone who cares. I'm giving it to someone who will still be loving, who will not give up on, their loved ones. So you can sit here under this tree and sulk. The shade is good all day. And then everybody else is going to go have a wonderful time. But that's why that's so powerful, so successful. As for what color Jesus was and all those other, Israelites, like If there was a Moses, I don't think there was. I don't think there was historical Jesus. I think they're just made up stories.
Oh, absolutely.
But for the people that were real, right, that the Bible makes references to,
yeah,
they weren't all non-existent. Some were.
For sure, absolutely.
And how that book has worked in their life, or had worked in their lives, or currently does, to make them the best possible person. I'm reminded of Lauryn Hill, who sang this line in her Unplugged album, and one of the songs, I don't know which one it was. You inspired me to be the higher me, the higher.
Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful thing to say about a God.
Yeah.
Or, the person you randomly meet that has been, a force in your life, and you finally get to meet them and you can say that to them.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. And religion has great power, and for that it can make sense. And yet you can take away the religion, as I suggested to Sean McDowell, you could take it away and everything else would still be here.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have a supernatural thought. Maybe there's
sure.
a guy or a group of guys and some women controlling it all.
Yeah.
Maybe everything, the universe has this grand consciousness, as opposed to the individual beings in the universe, like an amoeba, like a human being or a giraffe, having their own consciousness. It's more like that to me. I've looked at amoebas under microscopes and planarians, and when they see me moving, things into the slide, or I take the slide off and I'm poking around down there, I see them like moving away from it, like, wait a minute, that thing's coming to get me, or it's a threat in my environment.
Yeah.
Or when I see an animal that needs help and I help it out, I give it water or I feed it or something like that.
Yeah, where was God then?
I've done this. I don't know if it was right, but I did it.
Right.
There were people I know who constantly post a lot of religious memes that essentially are putting forth the idea that prayer is the solution for everything. Prayer and faith are the solutions for everything. So there's a famous picture of, I guess it's a vulture that's next to this child, this starving African child, like maybe it's a 2-year-old child or a 1-year-old child. This kid is emaciated and about to die. The photographer didn't feed this kid. He just took the picture and later killed himself after the picture became famous. I took a copy of that picture and I used a meme app and I put something to the effect that God answers all prayers. Sometimes he says no.
Right.
And then I explained that the photographer was so distraught after taking this picture. That was a Pulitzer Prize winning picture. He killed himself. So other things like that, a slave, it's a famous picture of a guy who was a slave who had all these welt marks on his back from being whipped.
Yeah.
Sometimes God answers all prayers. Sometimes he says no.
Yeah, but that's kind of legitimizing it, that you can still continue praying because he still hears you, and it's like legitimizing the answer no, although that's not the point. The point is why prayer? Why do you even pray? How is that helping you at all?
I'll take that into account in the future. I'm going to disagree that I was legitimizing it, but you could be right, and everyone who saw it said, but what about all the people who didn't starve? What about all the people who were able to get their own freedom because either their slave master let them go or they escaped? That could be the mindset. You certainly do see a lot of excuse making in the United States of America. There's a lot of it. You might have seen some excuse making yourself when you lived in Israel, or there it is in Canada.
Right.
I don't really know, but I thank you for giving me that caution, and I'll be sure to try to reframe things when I reframe things.
Yeah. It's very similar. A lot of Christians says, because they're saying, not only Christians, they're saying he hears every single prayer. his answer can be no, and that's not up to you. So the second you're not getting an answer, don't think about it as he's not there. You have to think about it as he did it for a reason. He didn't answer you for a reason, or you didn't get what you want for a reason.
Right.
Or how do you know that slave prayed?
No, of course. That's what I said it earlier. Like, why even pray in the first place? How do you even find reconciliation of you pray, I don't, and I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Like, I didn't starve, right? But I didn't pray. So that's obviously does not got to do.
Well, sick spider. God, the Bible says, "My rain falls on the just."
Oh, right. I forgot. About that.
It's all. My
apologies. My apologies.
I had an ex-girlfriend who tried to say Nobel Peace Prize, and she accidentally said Nobel Priest Prize, and I said I'm using that.
Absolutely.
The guy who put that in the Bible deserves a Nobel Priest Prize.
Absolutely.
Because to me, that lets them off the hook. That lets the rabbis don't have to give any more explanation. And I think that's how quite a bit of the Bible was written. And you can correct me if you didn't see this in Israel in your lifetime, tell me. There were things written in the Bible that were supposed to govern society, and there were things in there that allowed the priest not to have to answer a question that was hard to answer with a fact.
Oh, for sure.
That's one of them.
For sure. It's worse than that.
Okay.
You know about the sages, about the Jewish sages who wrote you might have heard that word Gemara, the Gemara, and that's
like Halakha and Halakha? Is it something on that order or not?
No, it's like they were the sages they lived after the first temple or during the first temple, and they basically wrote a few books of how to be Jewish. All sorts of rules and talking about the Torah, the Bible, and all that. But the important thing is that today, to be Jewish is to follow the sages, not the Torah, not the Bible. What it says in the Bible, sometimes it's like they don't even take that an account. They take what the sages were saying about the Bible in this, like in this point or another. Like they're not following the Torah itself, which is weird. They're following how people interpreted the Torah.
Right.
And those sages, and that's also a very weird thing about Judaism, the current Judaism in Israel. That they thinking that all the goods are there, everything is good is there, and of course everything is true, and it's got nothing. And many times, like I said, it doesn't even matter what the Bible says, what it says in the Bible. They don't take that into account at some points. They're only taking what the sages said about that, and that's very weird.
I feel like I wish I was alive later in history. Like, I don't know, like, religion just sucks, man. It just sucks. Like, why? Like, why do we... Like, why do we have to share the planet with these people? I don't want to. Like, I want to just tell them they're wrong. Like, I don't know. Like, I just think, yeah, okay, but I'm grown and I can prove the things I believe. That's the difference. Like, you know, like, there's just too much. There's too much going on. There's too much to sift through.
In many arguments, you're noticing that they conflict. They not noticing that thinking about a problem or saying something, they see it as evidence. The fact that I said that, or the fact that someone said something, that's the evidence. No, like we need concrete. How do you say it? Like applications in reality to see the result.
How do I apply how do I apply this knowledge you give me?
Exactly. And if it's not a usable information, then what do you want me to do with it? Okay, you're telling me there's a God. Yeah, great. Can you build applications that will help me with this God? Can you build something that bring back amputees' limbs back? Can you do something in reality with this information? As long as you cannot, I don't care what is it. I do not care. And that's why science is nice, because science have the results of science are actually in reality in front of me right now. You see, I'm like playing a computer game, driving in a car. I didn't do that by praying. I didn't do that by knowing God exists. This is science. And it has like real life applications. We can use it to improve life, to fix things, to build things. Like, holy shit, like, have you seen the Burj Khalifa? Like, that thing, nobody did it with God. It's insane, right? Like, how do you think that saying something gives you results in reality? Well, it literally doesn't. And science does all the thing that you want, but you don't listen to it. Like, no, that goes against my belief. Well, who gives a shit about your belief? Again, if your belief is not giving you practical applications, who gives a shit? Literally, who gives a shit?
Well, part of it.
That's my rant, by the way, about religion.
And we appreciate it. We appreciate it, Spider. I think we can go back to the examples of the rabbis in Israel. Controlled. I think it probably started out very innocently, in that you're just trying to give people guidelines to live by in a cooperative society, to be respectful of each other, even loving of each other, and work together without slaughtering each other off, which societies often, I think American society is starting to do this, or maybe it's been doing it a while, starting to destroy itself.
Yeah.
Now, if we're
it's
lucky,
happening.
Yeah, if we're lucky, we get to rise from our own ashes. Most of us, if not almost all of us, we get to rise from the ashes. Mm-hmm. But I think what we all really want, and maybe this is what the rabbis wanted long ago, those old teachers or writers, how do we avoid having that even occur, where we need to rise from our own ashes? How do we avoid the bickering, the arguing, the divisiveness? How do we avoid the property disputes? How do we, on and on? How do we avoid disputes over women? Well, they were considered property then. But how do we avoid all of that in order to make society supremely beneficial for the most people within the population? Is that a Miata?
Sorry?
Is that a Miata? Or is it a BMW? Oh, it's a BMW maybe?
No, it is a Mazda.
Okay, so
I pick cars that I can drive, not the fast ones, because I'll just crash. So I'm picking cars that, they're fast, but not too fast.
Well, believe me, there's many a Ferrari that's been passed by Miata. Because they just handle so well. They're actually pretty great. So, but yeah, I think a thing for us to consider is with the origins of the Bible, which I don't think that's a completely settled question.
Okay. I gotta tell you something about the origin of the Bible. You ready? So just 2 hours ago, in Israel, there's a show called The Atheist Line. They're trying to do the atheist experience, but in Hebrew, in Israel. Okay? And just today, someone called, and they're telling them, the hosts are like something about Hinduism and all that, and he's like, yeah, they believe in the Jewish God. I'm like, everybody's like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. They literally do not. And he says, yes, they believe in the Abrahamic God. They actually, a lot of them actually, first, they don't know history at all. They don't even understand that Hinduism and the Chinese cultures were up there for 6,000 years, and no one ever, told them about the flood. But it's like a lot of them people, thinking that the Torah was the first book ever written, or that is the history of the world, that it all starts with the Jewish God and the Israelites. It's insane. So the whole that's part of education, right? So for example, in Israel, they don't have it. Like when we learn history. You don't learn history of the world or the ancient world. You don't listen. You don't, for example, you don't study the very ancient Egyptians. That's over 4,000 years ago. We didn't learn about that. We learned about like the Egypt that is told in the Bible. Like, yeah, who cares? That's like the last sliver of the Egyptian empire. And it's just nothing is taught in a way that tries to conflict or bring real evidence to the to validate the faith. Everything is like on the down low. We learn history, but just a bit of it, or not enough of it to understand the real. When did the Jews, started? How did it start? What's the origin of the God himself? Because we know there were other gods there, like the volcanic god and the sun god. Yeah, Yahweh and all that. Like we know that, but it's not, for a lot of the religious people, that's not, they're not talking about it. They're not learning about it. Like nothing. It's like not part of it. Everything is with the Jewish God. Everything is Judaism. Everything is the Abrahamic God, and and fuck you all. That's what it is basically. It's like we're the best, we're the good ones, and if you don't believe that, that means you're anti-Semitic Jew, and I don't know. Like it's just insane.
You mentioned anti-Semitic. That's in that response I wrote to that Young Turks video. I confront that, and I said, Ethiopian is a Semitic language, and it's far from being the only one. I forget whether there's 8 or 18, or maybe there's 14, but there's a lot of them. It's not just Hebrew.
Right.
And I say that not so I can invalidate her point. Hate speech would be hate speech no matter who's speaking it.
Right.
But it's unlikely, because this is an American I was talking to, two Americans, it's unlikely that they even understood that any other language other than Hebrew is Semitic. They may not even know what Hebrew, that it is the language. They might think Jews speak Jewish. Probably not all Jews speak Yiddish.
Right.
But
most don't, yeah.
Yeah, I've been told, but that's the language of the Jews.
That's, yeah, okay. The Yiddish language is what came from the Ashkenazi Jew, basically from Germany, and Yiddish is basically some sort of a mix between German and ancient Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. But you're right. This is the only people who learn that is Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox Ashkenazi Jews, no one else. And they learn that, and they use that language because they don't want to use Hebrew, because that's the holy language. So you can't just speak the holy language. That's why they have the Yiddish, which is, you think about it, you're like, guys, you're just like fucking insane. It's so silly.
In your family, do you have anyone who speaks Yiddish?
No. I mean, my dad would know some words and some sentences. Yeah, but I'm sure I have some people that I know that do speak Yiddish. Yeah. But if you go, for example, there's a huge neighborhood, which is like a small city in Israel, called, the translation will be 1,000 gates, 100 gates, 100 she'arim, and that place, they only speak Yiddish. There is no, it's like a country inside a country. It's not, they have their own rules. Just like Iran, they have, like modesty police that goes and spits on little children and, or doing shit like telling them, to wear, like to 12-year-old girls, that they're not covering their knees. I'm like, you guys are so out. Like, it is so insane. Like, who gives a shit? It only shows like the level of, segregation that you want from the outside world and from your own communities. Like, not if you're not allowed to think about women, okay, but what's got to do with like 12-year-olds? Why is that even in the conversation? So there are places that it's like a country inside a country, and in that area they speak only Yiddish. Yes, that's what I wanted to say, basically. Long story short, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I mean, it's not something I knew, and I don't know how many of our viewers would even know something like that. I find it fascinating because Israel is yet another place where it's a blend of cultures, not just one.
Yeah.
That email or the reply that I sent also referenced the fact that Israel had been invaded multiple times.
Yeah.
One set of invaders took the elites off to their country and left the poor farmers. Not everybody came back.
Yeah.
So that I didn't explain this too much, but those bloodlines in both places now are mixed. And when the next group of invaders come, they do the same thing. Not everybody comes back.
Yeah.
And bloodlines are mixed. You surely had some people who weren't ever carted off and their ancestors weren't carted off. How do you identify who those people are today? I mean, genetically, you might get some idea, but when an archaeologist is digging up some bones and they can manage to get some DNA off of it, we don't know that person wasn't part of a trade caravan.
Yeah, exactly.
And that they were from a completely different place and they just wanted to get some salt, and that's why they're there. They wanted to get a lot of salt and then take it home and get super rich. So I think a lot of times science does a very good job of humbling us if we bother to respect it, if we bother to understand that we don't know who this ancient person was, and we realize there's an identity crisis in society today where many people don't know who they are, or they consider who their ancestors were as who they are. And I've said this before on the show. At best, in terms of history, we will pass on our genetic mutations that are unique to us and nothing else.
Yeah. It's funny, for example, let's take King David, right? Okay, so we know King David was really a guy. We know we had King David. We have his palace. We have coins. We have many archaeological findings that, beside the Bible, confirms his existence and his kingdom. We know that kingdom existed. But there's a difference between knowing that, yes, this kingdom existed, to telling, oh, now the story in the Bible about David and Goliath is true. So people saying, and that's something that we also have a lot here, over there in Israel, that, because one part of the Bible we can confirm, therefore it is all confirmed.
That is true.
And that's very weird. That's to what you said there about like the part. How do you know?
Because there's a historical character there, and
exactly.
I just think that I don't know. It's I think for a lot of people, my one black friend has a good way of doing this. You have a gentle way of saying, I just don't think this is true, because I think that that's so important. I think for so many people, that's a lot to tease apart. So wait, there was a King David, but the kingdom was smaller. No, because you want to find people, when it comes to their belief, they're not looking to assess if it's true. They're looking for a reason to hold on to the belief that it is. So that shred of truth, which we can recognize as inadequate, to them is just going to be confirmation.
That's the hook.
That's the
exactly.
hook.
That's the confirmation for the whole story.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's true from the inside out, right? The story is true because they relate to it. They see themselves.
Yeah, it's true first. It's true first internally, and then it's communicating something that has to be true. So then they're trying to figure out which external bits correspond.
It has to be true about them. It has to be true about them. So it can be true, absolutely true. You use the David and Goliath story, 6 fighter. That's an excellent story. It is an ambitious person, metaphorically, the ambitious person who wants to achieve the goal. No, he wants to get the girl.
Right.
Directly confronting the system, if you will, the challenger, which looks down on someone like him, and he wins.
Do you want me to really blow your mind? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish. I didn't.
No. I'd love to add more, but go ahead and blow my mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know how well you know the Bible. Are you guys ready for this?
Bring it on.
Who killed Goliath?
Who killed Goliath?
Yeah. We were just talking about it, right?
David in the slingshot?
Yeah, so there's David and I think Elhanan also. If I remember.
Yes. There are 2 stories killing the same person. Nice. You know your shit, dude.
He's the Bible nerd amongst Bible nerds.
Nice.
So
and that's something that even a lot of, for example, like Jewish people or people who claim, that's a very good question. For example, to ask someone who's like, I know the Bible.
I know the Bible, but not. I ain't one of you hardcore Uber.
You don't know the errors in the Bible, but you know the Bible.
The Bible tells the same story twice.
That's what I should start telling people. I should start saying I know the biblical stories. Right, which is knowing the biblical stories is different than knowing the Bible.
Oh, for sure.
I would say, but there's even as an atheist, I think there's a value in both because again, we've discussed this. That's what people are presenting to us as the evidence for their being.
Sure. Yeah.
And if we don't know those stories, you can't get that person to leave you alone if that's what you want. You can't get that person to understand that the story they're talking about, like people living in 900 plus years, is it true? If that's what you want,
right,
you don't know those stories. You're not necessarily equipped. You might have to name call to get rid of them, or say something very gentle like Steve Martin once said. I'm paraphrasing. That's a fascinating belief, but why can't you convince the dummy? You can refer to yourself that way. Like, you can't convince me from what you just said. And I like to say that's impressive, even if it's true. I don't actually think that's true.
Right. The funny thing is when you bring it with believers or people like, the Bible says, and then you ask them a question like that, like, okay, so who killed Goliath in the Bible? And the answer is David. And say, no, you need to read the Bible. What their reaction is usually like, I'm attacking them, and they don't understand. I'm not really attacking them. I'm attacking. You need to sit down, just like flurfs, just like flat earthers. Go and do your own research, like they claiming all the time. Do your own research, and that's what I mean when I tell it to them, right? For example, it's even the first 2 chapters of the Bible. You have the creation story in chapter A. And you got a different creation story in chapter B. Like the chapter after, it's a different story.
Right.
And they're like, no, that's not true, or something like that. It's like, no, just you go and check it out.
Well, I always think those are sort of layups in the sense that if a person is truly convinced of that is often a straightforward seed of doubt to plant, right? Because you can say, hey, look, I really, really need you to look into this, right? Which is, I guess I'm just saying, they're almost doing you the favor of giving you something that's easier to pin down so quickly versus somebody who's giving you something a little bit amorphous that's more difficult, right? Where they're not hanging their hat on, something that can be so easily disproven about the book.
Yeah. Well, I think the challenge that we can face is that the book is true at all costs.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be willing to love to yourself enough to do something better with your time. There's sure a lot of fun things out there, like Six Spiders Racing Game.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Well spoken.
Yeah. So I think to some degree, all we can hope to do is what they hope to do. This person has been very receptive of the message that I'm giving them, but I should say something that they can take with them and think of.
Right.
I think we as atheists, if you're trying to reform or get, like my challenge, right? I will buy you a Bible. It's free. It's freaking free. You just have to ask. I just have to know you need one.
Right.
I'll send it to you. You don't have to go anywhere. You spend 30 seconds sending me an email with your address and your name, and I'm going on Amazon. I'll have it drop shipped to your house, and you can read away. And I'll give the open invite. You can ask me questions.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, when I worked at this church, this pastor was into reading the Bible every year. He was one of the guys I'll give it to. He didn't just read the Bible; he read it every year.
Let me assume this guy made upwards of $200,000 a year.
No. He was. I mean, he was in that type of thing, but he wasn't that type of guy. Nah, he was a real.
Okay.
But
how
like,
did he not? Yes.
yeah, I don't know. So I think because, like me, he came from generations of pastors. So he was like me. He came from generations of like real men of God. Like the real, you know what I mean? I'm not saying there's anything defendable about Christianity, but there's some defensible people in Christianity, right? Like my grandfather, you meet my grandparents, you're gonna be like, oh, them some real Christians right there. Them some real godly people. You know, they're real nice and they're real, you know, and so they teach you like the quote unquote true way of ministering, right? Which is about, you know, it's basically the Jesus version of a community organizer. You know, and so he was just on that tip, right? So he was never in it for the money or whatever. He was in it to serve and all of that. But anyway, he believed in having a yearly Bible reading plan. Like there's a number of them out there, you know. And I got with one. And I got about a third way through my Bible reading plan or whatever. And I was knocking mine out in chunks too, because I could take on a little bit more reading. But when I got in a Bible study group at my church, and nobody wanted to do it, to your point of not having any takers. And I thought that was particularly surprising because, one, I'm not just in a church, I'm in a Bible study group of worship leaders. So you would think we're in a Bible study group, y'all all sitting around talking about, but you know what it is? They know that that's potentially unsafe. And you know what I should have said?
Exactly.
I bet you I might have got a different response if I'd have said this differently. I might have got a different response if I'd have said, how do y'all feel about doing a year-long devotional reading with me? Because I noticed they love Bible reading, but under two contexts. Number one, Bible study, because you only have to read what pastor told you to read, right? You're only basically reviewing the scripture from the sermon, right? And maybe some supplemental scriptures. And then everybody's on the same page, right? So, you know, it's kind of safe. And then your devotional. Like if they had a men's devotional Bible or a women's devotional Bible, they like to read their devotional Bibles. But we know them devotional programs, right? They're scripted, right? And they only hit certain parts of the Bible. And it's really, I hate to say it, but it's selfish Bible reading. It's like, oh, I like to sit down and get my little morning high. It's like it's the Bible equivalent of a wake and bake, right? Like for stoners, we got to get that little wake and bake in just to get right before the day gets going. And I think that's what Christians do, right? They got to get up and they got to hit their little Bible devotional real quick. But I think
it's not learning the Bible. Sorry, it's not learning the Bible. It's learning and waiting for the verses that you already see as true and the things that you know and familiar with. They not. When you go to Bible studies, it's not that you're really reading the Bible. For example, the difference between the two first chapters of two creation stories.
Right.
No, that's not what they do.
No, it's not what you're
Just
doing.
like you said, they're going for something very specific. Someone told them, okay, read this chapter because this chapter, I guess, you can still apply it to today's life somehow.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with what actually, like with the real or the full Bible. It's got nothing to do with it.
Exactly. So what I'm wondering is if I framed reading the full Bible rather as, hey, let's study the Bible by reading it in a year together, which they were like, nope, sorry, group activity.
Yeah, because they know,
what they're
going to find there.
Right. If I'd have framed it as a year-long devotional, right? Because it might have hit him differently just using that word, right? To frame it differently. Go ahead, my one black friend. What do you think?
If you had thank you. If you had just said, hey, let's get together every week and do a different social activity. And you can invite people that aren't in our circle here today. So if you got somebody that you want to come to church and they're not so sure that they want to come to church, let them go on one of these outings with us. And you do zero religious stuff on these outings.
Yeah.
You couldn't have controlled the number of people that would have been meeting you for these things. It just would have gotten out of hand. You know, where you have to buy all your tickets in advance because you have enough people to fill the movie theater. Because you just took religion out of it, but you kept community in. And people will gravitate to that group because they want something to do.
Yeah, I mean that's what we've been trying to do, you know, out here in our community. We just, you know, we just need some more people, you know, slowly, some more good people. But yeah, I think that's a big part of the issue. And to be honest with you, that was the good thing about the church I went to. They were great at doing community, and a lot of times we did that. So I always tell people, people would always ask me, like my secular friends, even women I was dating, they would say, you know, like, you play for this church, so you have to be there at service on Sunday. You got to be there at college service on Thursday night. Okay, you got to be at band rehearsal on Wednesday night. But, you know, you don't got to be there Monday. You don't got to be there Sunday evening. You know, why are you there for all their trips and stuff? And I would tell them, you're missing the point. You're looking at it going, why are you at all these quote unquote church activities that you don't have to be at? And you're asking a question that has a very difficult answer. You're missing the simple answer right in front of you. I am where all my friends are at today. I say for every person, you just have a threshold of how many of your friends can get together before you really want to be there. If your friend calls you up, my one black friend, and says, hey man, I'm gonna get together, and let's pick something you don't even like. Do you like soccer? Let me pick a sport you don't like.
You can start there. Go ahead.
All right, you don't like soccer. So you got your friend, he calls you up and he says, hey man, the World Cup's coming up, man, come over and watch the soccer with me. Now, here's what's funny. You don't like soccer, he knows you don't like it, but here's the thing. You're kind of inclined to go. Why? Because you don't really care about the soccer game, right? You kind of know that you'll get to have kick up with your friend. Maybe he tells good story. He's always good company. If there's going to be a soccer game on in the background, well, it's not going to hurt you to watch a soccer game, right? So you kind of already go. Now imagine he calls you and he says, hey, do you want to come over and watch the soccer game? I'm going to be there, and our old buddy from high school, Craig, is going to be there. Now you're like, man, Craig's going to be there too, right? This number probably is low. It only has to get to be like 3 of your friends get together before pretty much it's not going to matter what they're doing. You're going to want to be there, right? If that number is 4, 5, 6, 7, right, you want to be there. It doesn't matter what you're doing because all the person said is, hi, everyone's getting together. Your response is when, where. You don't even ask what you're doing. You're just when, where, right? So what I'd always say is, you got to remember, we play in a band together. So when me, the bass player, the guitar player, the keyboard player, 3 of our singers, It's all in the same place. We're all gonna be there. None to mention that all the wives are there, right? 2, 3, 4 wives is there. The keyboard players, 2 sisters come. The kids is running around. It doesn't matter that they're studying the Bible. It doesn't matter that it's a religious worship. It doesn't matter that they're going to a religious conference. None of that matters. I'm simply doing the most obvious thing any social human being does. I'm simply attending a thing because all of my friends are there. And guess what? I'm having the time of my life. I'm happy. I want to be there. I'm coming back next time. Again, because all my friends it's so obvious, but that's what people miss about church. It really doesn't matter what the thing is. They're just doing it because that's where all their people are.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I guess that people can lose sight of that sort of thing.
Right.
It's not that you necessarily believe strongly in a God. You believe in those relationships, those friendships.
Yeah, but we can do that. I mean, even like our, community here, like in Cheers, a lot of times we're all watching stuff, like we're watching, we've been watching all of the World Series. I don't know if there's 2 or 3 baseball fans amongst the whole lot of us, right? A bunch of us will probably be in hockey, what do they call them? Fantasy sports league or something. Again, probably only 3 of us are hockey fans. It's a lot of things, we'll all be playing Tetris and, I don't know if any of us really care. But again, it's all the same things. You do it because you're, a bunch of your friends are in Gather every night. So, you realize, this is what they watch. This is what they play. And so, again, once 2 or 3 of your friends are doing it, a couple other people are going to start doing it because those 2 or 3 people are doing it. Now there's 4 or 5 of your friends doing something. Again, now you're just doing it because 4 of your friends are fine. And then you discover, this thing is kind of fun. That's how I felt about church games. Like, there's a lot of those really corny kind of team building games, like code names and stuff, that I love because my church played them. And you would get together the first time, you'd be like, man, this is probably some corny church game. And you get together and they're not. They're just regular games that are popular with church groups. And you play it and it's super fun. And then you're like, yeah, man, I'll be at the next game night, But I always realized that that's what those, and to be honest with you, more groups need to do that. What do I mean by that? So I shot a television show. I worked on a couple TV shows, but the last one I did, The Real Hookup. The one thing I really loved about that was Taylor and I, my co-host and I, we really became friends. Like we hit each other up literally, and we would go on more or less like dates. Like we were both in relationships, but it wasn't like a date. It was just, yo, Jay, you want to go get dinner? Yeah, of course, man. Let's go grab some dinner. That way we just had time off air to just grab a drink, have dinner with one another, bullshit, go to something fun together. That way to work on our relationship, not just every time we get together, it's for the show. So even like student groups, if you're, or your coworker.
I'm getting quiet, guys.
Oh, you're good, Six Spider.
Yeah, I've had, anyway, the edible is coming up.
Oh, I got you.
How do you call it? Airplane mode, right?
Airplane mode, exactly. So it was, I always say that was one thing I really like about working in food service. For some reason, when you work in like food service or bartending or whatever, you tend to work with cool people. I think because it's the service sector, so you work with people who have pretty decent social skills, right? Because you got to deal with customers all the time. So if you're like shy recluse, you probably are not having this type of job. But what I like about it looking back was we always did stuff together. Like, you know, there was always somebody was having a party after work. We're all going to go to the skating rink. We're going to the movies. So y'all didn't just work together. You were always doing stuff together outside of work, right? And you didn't, and everybody was invited for no other reason than because y'all worked together, right? So if you was in the group, you was already in the group. And those are some of the best memories I have, right? And then I feel like certain other professions, as it got more serious, it's rarely like that. Like my lab is like that. My lab will get together regularly, you know, hey, let's, you know, the boss wants to buy everybody drinks or whatever. But when you go from there, you skip all the way to the field gets together once a year at a conference, right? In between, there's no real regular informal socialization because that type of intentional community building is just not considered part of our working agenda. But I think that's why those other areas of our life struggle to bring the same satisfaction or community that church does. And I think that that's actually a problem, right? Because I think as long as church is people's best option to meet a real human need, you can't really replace it with nothing. That's not going to work. Yeah.
I think I got to go here, but I think we can agree human beings tend to thrive off company. And the better the company that you're with, the better the time.
Yeah, hang on one sec. Somebody knocking on my door.
All right. It's all on me, folks, which is fine. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I think this is a really good one to make shorts with. Cut up in a short video, which is now all the rage.
It was nice talking to you, man.
Huh?
It was nice talking to you.
Oh, it was great talking to you too. Thank you, Six Spider, and I really appreciate the info on Israel. I've never been there, so I have nothing to do but learn. And when I see you again, please feel free to step in and comment. You actually have more questions.
For sure, and if you have questions, ask.
Sure. Here's a question for you. Are there two cities of David in Israel?
So in the old city, which is divided to 4 quadrants, there is basically the city of David is part of them. And that's part of the old city. As far as I know, that's the only one that we have.
Okay.
If you Google, for example, Jerusalem Tower of David, you'll see it. Now, what's interesting is that there's supposed to be now the kingdom of David, right? Like the historical David they found, right? It was like a minor city, minor settlement, whatever, right? In other words, they're saying
no, that's it. That's all in Jerusalem. So he ran the kingdom from Jerusalem, and
so that minor settlement that they think he was a kingdom, that was in Jerusalem.
No, I'm saying that settlement that might have been under the King David ruling was not in Jerusalem, but his palace was in Jerusalem. In the old city.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying, is there might be 2 cities of David, and the fact that there's the one that's celebrated, and then there's now actually going to be, if there was a historical David, right, it'd be somewhere else, right? So then that would actually become the I don't even think it would be city would even be appropriate, but y'all know what I mean. Because I think it's just small, right? It's just considered too small, at least from what they've dug up so far. So yeah, this is all real interesting. Look, people, you got to vote. You know, we're supposed to be talking about the midterms, but they're a couple days away. That was some elections work. I let them know I already voted. Y'all know the voter intimidation out here is real. So I think, one of the things that was on the ballot this year for us was a sort of permanent absentee voter list, where you can actually apply once and then be on the permanent absentee voter list instead of getting these applications every year, because that's a hassle. But I think that's something, with the way it is out here, man, they need to make it easier to vote. People need to vote online because, we was watching stuff earlier where people's covering up their license plates and stuff to go vote because of all the craziness going on.
Hey, Six Spider, do you vote on an app in Canada?
No, I cannot vote.
You cannot vote.
I cannot vote here, no.
Oh, because you're not a native.
No, because I don't live there. So I just don't have access to. I have a voting card. I can vote. I just physically cannot because I don't live in Israel.
No.
We meant you can't vote in Canada.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I can. I'm a Canadian citizen. Yes.
But can you vote online? That's what he's asking.
Oh, holy shit. See, I told you I shouldn't talk anymore.
No, you're good. You're good.
I don't know how you do it, but...
It takes a lot of practice.
No, we have to go and actually vote physically.
Gotcha.
But we don't have the... How do you call it? That retarded system that you guys have. Sorry, I used the wrong word. That stupid system that you're using, the college, how it's called?
Electoral college.
Electoral college, yeah, because it should always go by popular vote. I don't understand why you guys have two systems, but whatever.
If I'm elected, I will eliminate the electoral college.
Boom.
It's one of the first things I do.
You heard it here first.
I would be tempted to run in a way that allows me to win by the electoral college.
Yeah, and that's why the Republican doesn't want people to vote, right? They want the least people to vote because then the electoral college will win for sure, and it won't go by popular.
I think that's very telling about your ideology.
Absolutely.
If you have to cheat to win, if you literally have to cheat in order to win, then you're knowing you're not good enough right there.
Yeah, that's the playbook. That's the playbook of religion to me. It's just, with the ignoring the misses and paying attention to the hits. But yeah, my one black president. All right, let's let him out of here. I should be at my meeting for 6 o'clock or whatever. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. It's been super fun. Thanks again to Six Spider. And don't forget to vote, everybody. Midterms are on Tuesday. And as always, be good to yourselves.
And each other.
All right. See you later.
See you later.
Ready for take off?
All right. Thanks, my one black friend. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Whoa. I'm going to go figure out what I did with my MacBook Air.
Oh, nice. I guess I'm going to...
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.
Now it's grams of the wax for my conscience. Brian James in LA around college. I've been jumping on them planes like a hobby. Still moving with the pack like my partners. Just the John on them jets cause we wildin'. But the boat is a party on the island. Moment of silence. So good, get back to the topic. Grew up with me and Flocka. Grandma's and Big T, this my mama. I ain't even for the pain with my pots flip. Do his name, that's it, never bother. Mom said, you the man, son, you got this. Ever since I found a way to go and pop shit. Hold up, blaze through a whole zip. Took a seat at the table of my first flip. Days in red roof for my first whip. Spent the money with the gang, never post pics. Seen a change in the game, had to coach it. Never let them take my wangs in the mold, bitch. Ever made in a month, nigga.